In the beginning, before the existence of the earth, before the formation of the seas and the emergence of mountains, there was only the Creator. The Lord, eternal and infinite, dwelt in inaccessible light. In His wisdom, He chose to create celestial beings to reflect His glory and serve Him in worship. Thus were born the angels, countless myriads, each with specific power, beauty, and functions in the celestial realm. Imagine heaven, perfect, harmonious, untouched by evil. Angels singing in unity, echoes of light traversing infinity. And at the center of this celestial stage, the most beautiful among creations, Lucifer, the bringer of light. Now imagine this same being, exalted, honored, radiant, rising up against the very Creator. In today's video, you will witness true story of the rebellion in heaven to understand how Lucifer became Satan-liking third of the angels fell with him. And why this war? It still affects every detail of your life today. Get ready. What you are about to hear is not just a story. It is the first chapter of the greatest spiritual war ever fought in the universe. Before delving into the heart of this epic narrative, please leave a like to support this work and ensure that stories like this deep, revealing, and transformative continue to reach you. And if you are passionate about biblical themes, spiritual mysteries, and the grand narratives of the Kingdom of God, subscribe to the channel now. With each video, a new revelation. With each story, a new awakening. Long before the creation of the earth, before dust formed mountains or the seas began to breathe waves, there was only the celestial realm, a domain of absolute perfection, where the glory of God flowed like rivers of light that filled every corner of eternity. The angels lived immersed in this perfect atmosphere. They were countless, each created with a purpose, a gift, a unique function. Some served as messengers, others as warriors of the Most High. Some watched over worship, others guarded eternal mysteries. And among them all, there was one that shone brighter. His name echoed like music. His face reflected the glory of the Creator as if he were a living mirror of eternity. Her body was adorned with precious stones, like a celestial work of art that emanated unparalleled beauty. Lucifer, the bearer of light, the anointed cherub, the most beautiful creation ever conceived by God. Ezekiel describes his appearance as being the seal of perfection. He lacked nothing. He was complete in glory, beauty, and wisdom. His voice, according to ancient interpretations, was like a chorus of mixed instruments. Imagine a single being emanating music capable of filling the entire sky. Lucifer walked among stones of fire, an expression that refers to the direct presence of God. He was beside the Almighty. He was honored, exalted, and respected by all the angels. But that was exactly at the height of glory. A whisper arose within him, a thought small, silent, but devastating. Lucifer began to contemplate his own beauty, your light, your brilliance, your honor. And little by little, something began to twist inside him. Pride. He who was created to reflect the glory of God began to be the center of glory. Isaiah reveals his secret thoughts. I will ascend to heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will be like the Most High. The seed was planted, and with pride came ambition. With ambition came corruption. And with corruption came rebellion. Lucifer began to look at what God had given him as if it were insufficient. He was the most beautiful, the most exalted among the creatures. But he wanted more. He wanted that which could never be his, the throne. There, in the heart of the most beautiful being in the sky, was born the shadow that would change the history of the universe. It's important to understand something essential. Lucifer didn't fall overnight. The rebellion didn't begin with shouts, but with whispers. It didn't begin with war, but with doubt. It didn't start with defiance, but with questioning. He approached the angels gently. Her voice was sweet, her appearance enchanting. No one suspected that within that brightness, darkness was beginning to form. My brothers ... double quotes, he would say, have you ever wondered why we worship only Him? Have you ever reflected on our freedom? Why can't we aspire to more? He did not attack God openly. He didn't say He wanted the throne. It was more subtle. He sowed seeds of doubt, and the doubts were seeds. Some angels immediately backed away, horrified, but others ... were curious, confused, vulnerable. Lucifer was persuasive, and little by little his voice began to echo louder than reason itself. The harmony began to crack. The angels, who had once sung in perfect unity, began to murmur amongst themselves. Questioning spread like smoke, like a breath sweeping through the celestial ranks. Revelation describes how a third of the angels were led astray by the dragon's influence. Think about it. 1/3 of the sky, millions and millions of perfect beings, corrupted. A celestial rebellion, silent but devastating. Lucifer was no longer just a cherub. He was becoming a leader, chief of dissatisfaction, father of lies. And all this took place before the throne of God in the heart of the kingdom of light. This is where something extraordinary happens. God did not destroy Lucifer immediately. He could, in one word, with a thought. But He did not want forced servants. He wanted children who would choose to remain by His side. Free will was a gift, and it would be respected. The angels would have to choose between two paths, the eternal truth, or the illusion of pride. Meanwhile, another movement was beginning to form. On the side of loyalty, on the side of the light, a commander stood up, Miguel, whose name means, "Who is like God?" His cry echoed like thunder. Who dares to compare themselves to the Most High? Glory belongs to Him alone. And it was then that the sky, for the first time, felt the weight of division. Two armies were beginning to prepare, not with human weapons, but with incomprehensible spiritual power. The war hadn't broken out yet, but it was about to begin. Lucifer was now unrecognizable. His light still shone, but inside he was already darkness. Her face still radiated beauty, but her essence was already corrupted. He walked among His followers, inflaming them with speeches of grandeur. Why should we bow down? If God made us so beautiful, so powerful, why can't we rule as well? The rebellious angels were listening to Him, and the heavens, which had once vibrated with songs of worship, now echoed with murmurs of rebellion. It was as if the entire universe was silently watching the rising tension, as if creation awaited the inevitable impact of the first cosmic conflict. The throne of God will not be divided. The rebellion would not be ignored. Michael went ahead, gathering the faithful angels. Lucifer advanced, inflamed by his own pride. And then, war was imminent. The sky had never known tension. I had never felt fear before. I had never witnessed division before. But now, it was as if each star was dimming in brightness, as if eternity were holding its breath. On one side, Miguel, the commander of the heavenly armies, stood firm before the throne of God. His face was like lightning, his posture like a wall. Behind him, thousands of faithful angels stood in line, each radiating living light, each wielding weapons formed from divine justice itself. On the other side, Lucifer, he who had once reflected the eternal light, walked among his now corrupted followers. His expression was one of arrogance. His eyes burned like dark embers. The light that was once pure was now distorted, broken, contaminated. He was no longer just a beautiful angel. He was the leader of a revolution. He was the heart of the first lie. He was the voice of pride transformed into poison. The angels who chose to join him, millions, no longer shone as brightly as before. Its wings had lost some of their luster. Their faces held shadows, discontent, and a desire for greatness. And then, finally, the universe was divided into two armies, light against darkness, Truth versus illusion. Obedience versus pride. There was no turning back. The moment of battle had arrived. Before the first blow was struck, Lucifer raised his voice, a voice that once led worship, now incited rebellion. "Listen," he said, walking authoritatively among his followers. "We are more than servants. We are glorious beings, endowed with power, wisdom, and freedom. Why bow down before a throne that limits us?" His footsteps echoed like soft thunder, his rhetoric sharp as a blade. "They say that glory belongs to him alone. But why? Why can't we, who hold up the heavens with our songs, govern as well?" Some rebellious angels raised their dark weapons, inflamed by the leader's words. Lucifer raised his hands, the distorted light reflecting off his fingertips. "Today, we will decide the fate of heaven. I will sit on the throne of the Most High, and those who are with me will reign with me." A roar echoed through their ranks. Cries of false courage, cries of illusion. The rebellion was sealed. On the other side of the celestial field, Michael stepped forward. His gaze pierced the sky. His sword blazed with vivid light, as if it carried the very essence of truth. "Who is like God?" he proclaimed with an authority that made the heavens tremble. "Who will rise above him who created all things?" His tone was not one of hatred. It was a matter of justice. "Lucifer, your glory does not belong to you. You were created to reflect the light, not to replace it." The faithful angels raised their weapons. And for the first time in eternity, heaven was prepared to fight. Miguel's voice echoed again. "Today we will decide who will remain before the throne. Rebellion will not be tolerated. The truth will prevail." And then, silence. A silence so profound it seemed to cut through the cosmos. The two forces were facing each other. Wait, tension. A moment that seemed endless. Until the first battle cry tore through the sky like an explosion of light. And then, chaos has begun. The celestial field was filled with pure energy. Faithful angels advanced in brilliant lines, like waves of living light cutting through space. The rebels responded with darkness, with distorted flames, with corrupted power. The entire sky became a storm of light and darkness. The blows resounded like thunder. Wings cut through the wind like blades. Rays of power exploded in flashes that illuminated the infinite. It was a war unlike anything we can imagine. There was no metal, there was no blood. It was power against power, glory against corruption, purpose versus pride. And the impact of each shock reverberated throughout creation. The most painful part of this war was not just the celestial destruction. It was the fact that beings created to live in perfect unity were now fighting against each other. Friends from ages ago, fellow worshippers, angels who had sung side by side before the throne. Now they faced each other, because one of them, a single one, had allowed pride to stifle the truth. Flashes of light clashed against spheres of darkness. Echoes of clamor mingled with war chants. The faithful angels shouted, "Holy, holy is the Lord of hosts." The rebels replied, "Freedom, power, glory to us." And the whole sky was trembling. In the heart of the war, where the celestial fire was most intense, Michael encountered Lucifer. The clash between the two was like the collision of stars. A wave of energy swept across the field. Angels were thrown far away by the impact. Miguel's sword blazed like living fire. Each blow he struck seemed to carry the truth of the Almighty. Lucifer, on the other hand, had transformed his energy into something dark. Its light was contaminated. Each attack was driven by hatred, ambition, and despair. "I was the fairest of them all," Lucifer shouted, his voice distorted with rage. "I was exalted above all others. I will never bow down." "Never," Miguel replied, his voice full of authority. "It was the Most High who exalted you, and it is the Most High who will bring you down." Pride is your downfall." Then their swords clashed again, lighting up the sky with a colossal explosion. The war had already been going on for a time that only heaven could comprehend. But the rebels began to falter. The truth has power. Justice has weight. Light has power. And the pride. Pride is not enough to sustain a long battle. The faithful angels advanced with unwavering determination. With each blow, a new wave of glory pushed the darkness back. Lucifer, seeing his followers fall, began to lose control. His fury grew. Her voice grew more desperate. "Fight, fight to the end," he roared. "I will be like God. I will take the throne." But his words no longer had the same power, and its glory was fading. Miguel looked upon the enemy who had once been the most beautiful of angels. There was sadness in his expression. Not hate, never hate. He raised his flaming sword, and his voice resounded like pure thunder. "Lucifer, your rebellion is over. The sky will not be divided. Glory belongs to the Most High alone." With a mighty blow, a blow that carried the authority of the eternal throne, Michael struck Lucifer with undeniable force. A gigantic flash illuminated the sky. Angels were cast backward. For a moment, the universe seemed to stand still. Lucifer was thrown down. Far away, out, he screamed as he fell, a scream of hatred, of despair, of defeat. "No, I will return. I will reign." But his voice no longer had any power, not even authority, not even glory. And then the order echoed from the throne itself. "You will not remain here any longer." The entire sky responded to that voice. A whirlwind of light formed around Lucifer and his followers. Divine force enveloped them like a storm. The fall has begun. They were cast out of heaven like falling stars, like flames cutting through the void, like fragments of corrupted light cast out of glory. Revelation describes it this way: the great dragon was cast out, and his angels were cast out with him. Lucifer fell. It kept falling without stopping. The light was leaving his body. The glory was fading. And in place of the name that once meant bearer of light, a new name was born: Satan, the opponent, the accuser, the eternal enemy. When the fall ended, the sky fell silent. There was no more war. There were no more screams. The light began to be restored. The chants returned, soft, deep, harmonious. But something in the universe had changed forever. The mark of the rebellion would be etched in eternity. 1/3 of the angels had fallen, and the most beautiful of all. It had become the most corrupt. The war had ended. But the conflict, it had just begun. When Lucifer, now Satan, was cast out of heaven, his fall was not silent. He plummeted into the abyss like a distorted lightning bolt, a fragment of lost glory tearing through the firmament with an eternal cry of hatred. His followers, now turned into demons, accompanied him like extinguished stars. The newly formed earth was still breathing its first breath of existence when they touched the ground. Creation was pure, innocent, immaculate. Each flower seemed to sing. Each river carried reflections of divine glory. The wind carried with it the fragrance of peace that God had breathed upon the world. But now an intruder walked amidst this perfect beauty. Satan, enraged and humiliated, burned with hatred inside. He could not return to heaven. It could not regain its shine. I couldn't undo the sentence, but he could destroy what God loved. And that, for him, would be the deepest blow. So when God created humankind formed from dust, but animated by God's own breath, Satan saw his opportunity. An opportunity to continue the war. To reach the Creator through the creature. To wound the heavens by using the earth as a battlefield. The same strategy used among angels. It would be used now with Adam and Eve. Imagine Eden. A garden where everything was life, where creation knew nothing of pain, time, or loss. where humankind walked with God in complete freedom. Adam and Eve lived in a harmony that is impossible to describe. There was no guilt, there was no fear, there were no shadows. They were the masterpiece of creation, beings made in the image and likeness of the Creator Himself. And in the center of this paradise, God placed the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, not out of cruelty, not because of risk, but for love. Just as angels had the freedom to choose, so would humans. Without choice, there is no true love. And it was precisely that door, the door of freedom, that Satan decided to walk through. Satan did not come shouting. He didn't come with threats. It didn't come with terror. He came as always, with whispers. Disguised as a serpent, a cunning and admired animal, he approached Eve. His voice wasn't monstrous. It was soft, almost melodious, like a distant echo of the lost glory he once had in heaven. Is it true that God said you cannot eat any fruit from the garden? The same tactic, the same distortion, the same seed of doubt. Eve responded, without malice, explaining God's commandment. But Satan drew even closer. Certainly, You will not die. That's how it was in heaven. That's how it was on earth. Lies disguised as freedom. Pride disguised as revelation. Rebellion disguised as a promise. God knows that when you eat this fruit, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God. The promise that brought down angels. It would now bring humanity to its knees. Eva looked at the fruit. It was beautiful, desirable. He seemed innocent. The lie seemed like the truth. Doubt seemed like wisdom. The rebellion seemed like liberation. She ate. And Adam, who was with her, also ate. And at that moment, Eden breathed sadness for the first time. Sin entered like a shadow that no one expected. Adam and Eve felt shame, something that creation had never experienced before. They tried to hide from the Creator something unthinkable in that paradise. Their downfall wasn't just about them, it was about all of humanity. Regarding all of creation, the war that began in heaven, it was now in the human heart. Satan smiled. For the first time since his downfall, he felt victorious. He thought, if I destroyed heaven, I will also destroy earth. This will be my field of conquest. But the Creator already had a plan written before the foundation of the world, a plan to defeat the serpent once and for all. When God spoke to the serpent in Eden, He issued a decree that would echo throughout eternity. From the seed of the woman will be born he who will crush your head. There, at the exact moment of the fall, God declared salvation. He declared the future. He declared the enemy finished. Satan knew. He felt the blow, but I wouldn't give up. If he couldn't beat God in heaven, would try to prevent the promise on earth, he would try to destroy the lineage. He would try to corrupt the people, to rule through fear, deceit, and destruction. A spiritual conflict began. Humanity would become the battlefield. Each generation would wage its own battle. Good and evil would no longer be just concepts. They would be active forces, and for thousands of years, Satan tried to reign through idolatry, of violence, corruption, from oppression, of the human kingdoms that were turning away from God, but nothing could thwart the eternal plan. When humanity was already plunged into darkness, when empires ruled with cruelty, when the world seemed to have forgotten, the light has come, not with armies, not with thrones, not with earthly crowns. He came as a child. He came humbly. He came as the Lamb, not as the conqueror. Christ, the Son of the living God, came down not only to teach, but to confront the enemy directly. Throughout Jesus' ministry, Satan tried to stop him. He tried to tempt him in the desert. He tried to incite crowds against him. He tried to use religious figures to destroy him. But Jesus did not come to avoid the cross. He came to fulfill it. The cross was not defeat. The cross was a weapon. It was a trial. It was the turning point in the war that began in Sidon and in heaven. At the moment Jesus was lifted up on the cross, Satan thought he had won. But there, on that piece of wood, the sentence declared in Eden was being carried out: "He will crush your head." The cross exposed the enemy. He destroyed the accusation. The debt was canceled. He broke the authority of darkness over humanity, and when Christ resurrected, hell trembled. The sentence was sealed. The spiritual war would continue, but the enemy's ultimate fate was already written. In Revelation, written by the Apostle John, God reveals what will happen to Satan after the end times, and the devil who deceived them will be thrown into the lake of fire. There will be no throne for him. There will be no glory for him. There will be no kingdom for him. He who sought to exalt himself above God. It will be completely destroyed in the end. The rebellion will not have the last word. Pride will not win. The opponent will not triumph. And God, the Creator who never loses, will restore all things. Now you know, Satan's story doesn't begin on earth. It begins in heaven. It starts off perfectly. It starts with beauty, and it ends in the destruction caused by one's own pride. And you also know, the war that began in heaven, it continues within each of us. But here is the most powerful truth. If even angels had to choose a side, we also need to choose. Don't live as spectators. Don't live as if you're neutral, because there is no neutrality in the spiritual realm. Pride brings you down. Lies destroy. Rebellion kills. But humility saves. Loyalty restores. Obedience transforms. God has never lost a battle. He never lost a faithful servant. He never failed to keep a promise. And he guarantees those who are in Christ ... have already won. The story of Lucifer shows the downfall of the rebellion. The story of the cross shows the triumph of grace. The moral is simple, profound, and timeless. Light always wins. The truth always prevails, and God's love always triumphs over any darkness. If you've watched this far, know that you are part of this story. And the God who conquered in heaven and conquered on the cross, it fights for you too.